Which of these gorgeous, fully fared mini versions of superbikes can get you the perfect entry into the world of sports motorcycle riding? Let's compare them on looks, sound, performance, equipment, comfort, fuel mileage, availability and prices to help you decide which one would work the best for your riding preferences. The 2022 KTM RC390 is the only bike in this comparison that is widely available across the world, and it gets the MotoGP inspired graphics this year. The pricing is pretty competitive if you consider what you're getting, which I will talk about when I compare specs and equipment. The 2022 Yamaha YZF R3 is available in the US, UK and Australia and has been discontinued in India. All three countries get the Icon Blue and the 60th anniversary edition. The US also gets the Monster Energy MotoGP edition. The UK continues to get the Yamaha black color option in 2022. The Kawasaki Ninja 400 is only available in the US and Australia, as it was discontinued in India and Europe owing to the BS6 and Euro 5 emission norms. The US gets 3 color options, and if you want one in India or the UK, you could always look for a used one. The Honda CBR 300R and Suzuki GSX R310 are only available in the US now. The 2022 CBR 300R is available in black and red color options, which are unchanged from 2021, and the 2022 Suzuki GSX250R gets a blue and black color combination from 2 years ago. The TVS Apache RR310 is only available in India among these 4 countries, but the TVS website does show presence across Asia, Eastern Europe, Africa and several Latin American countries. The RR310 is available in 3 color schemes: titanium black, racing red and a red and white TVS racing livery. Looks are a matter of personal opinion, and I really love how the Apache RR310 looks. It carries most of the design cues from the concept that TVS developed in partnership with BMW and showcased at the 2016 Auto Expo. It was codenamed the Akula 310. The Kawasaki Ninja 400 is a close second and looks pretty similar to my ZX6R. Yamaha R3 takes the next spot, followed by the Honda CBR 300R, which looks a lot better than the CBR 250R I used to ride back in the day. The 2022 KTM RC390 has got mixed reviews about how the looks compare with the previous generation bike. The GSX250R has an old school superbike design, and I'm pretty sure Suzuki fans dig the single headlamp look that Suzuki tends to stick to. And while you type away your own looks ranking, I'll play the stock exhaust as well as the aftermarket exhaust notes for you to decide which one sounds the coolest. And sound rankings out of the way, let's figure out which one performs the best in different riding scenarios. The Kawasaki Ninja 400's 399cc parallel twin engine makes 44.3 horsepower and 28 foot-pounds of torque and is among the fastest bikes in this comparison. The RC390 puts out very similar power, torque and top speed figures with a 373cc single-cylinder engine. That does make it more prone to vibration, which some might like to call character of the bike. The Yamaha R3 also has a great parallel twin engine, but it loses to the KTM by 3 horsepower and 6 foot-pounds of torque. The TVS Apache RR310 engine that is also used in the BMW G310R and G310 GS makes 34 horsepower and 20 foot-pounds of torque in its full power mode and can match the Honda top speed claim, which makes 30.5 horsepower and 20 foot-pounds of torque. The GSX250R has the smallest 248cc parallel twin engine that makes 24 horsepower and 17.3 foot-pounds of torque. While some reviewers have criticized it for being the slowest in the class, having ridden a CBR 250R that made similar power, I can tell you that for a beginner, it's got the perfect power band to learn motorcycle riding in a safe way and to transfer all that power from the engine to the rear wheel. All All bikes have a 6-speed manual transmission. The KTM, Kawasaki and the TVS also have an assist slipper clutch to ensure lighter clutch lever feel and avoid a wheel hop when you're downshifting aggressively. And to manage the power these engines deliver, the braking system seems to be configured appropriately. KTM has the most sophisticated braking system with a 320mm disc up front, 4-piston radially mounted calipers from Vibray, steel braided lines for better brake feel and low brake fade. The ABS is lane sensitive and switchable in the rear wheel should you feel the need to back it in. TVS also gets a 300mm single disc with radially mounted 4-piston calipers from Vibray and a multi-level adjustable ABS. In fact, the KTM and the TVS are the only two motorcycles in this category that have radially mounted 4-piston calipers. Kawasaki has 310mm single disc up front and 2-piston Nissan calipers with ABS and non-ABS options in the US. The Yamaha R3 gets a slightly smaller 298mm single disc with 2-piston calipers, but ABS is standard. Honda CBR 300R and Suzuki GSX R310 both get slightly smaller discs, but the Nissan 2-piston calipers do provide enough braking for the power they make. Both bikes have ABS and the rear brakes on the R3, Ninja 400 and CBR 300R are pretty similar. KTM has a 230mm rear disc and the TVS and the Suzuki have slightly larger 240mm rear discs. And even in terms of suspension, the KTM and the TVS are the most sophisticated in the class with fully adjustable upside down forks, and the rear monoshocks have adjustable rebound and preload. RC390 has the thickest 43mm WP apex forks with very convenient adjuster knobs. RR310 gives you the flexibility of choosing between a non-adjustable suspension in the standard trim and a KYB adjustable suspension if you purchase the dynamic kit in the TVS build to order program. Yamaha R3's KYB suspension setup is the next one in terms of sophistication, with 37mm upside down non-adjustable forks and a monoshock that is preload adjustable only. Ninja 400 has 41mm Showa forks that are conventional and non-adjustable. Its Showa monoshock does have preload adjustability. The Honda and the Suzuki suspension setup is quite basic, but it's reasonable for the price and for everyday around town riding that most riders would use them for. I have ridden a CBR 250R with that basic suspension for several thousand miles in different riding conditions, and I can tell you that for street riding and even some touring, you'll be just fine. And since the suspension is complemented by the tire choices, they vary based on the type of riding they're designed for. The KTM RC390 has Continental Road Attack tires. TVS Apache RR310 comes from the factory with Michelin Road 5s, which are my personal favorite. Kawasaki and Yamaha decided to go with Dunlop GPR 300s, which are good street tires, but for performance riding, you could consider an upgrade. The CBR 300R and the GSX250R have IRCs, which last a little longer and save you tire money. However, grip is not exactly their strong point when you push them harder or ride in wet conditions. I would recommend upgrading to at least a set of Michelins if you attempt some canyon carving with the Honda or the Suzuki. The tire specs of the Ninja 400, RC390 and the RR310 are similar, while the R3 shares tire sizes with the CBR 300 and the GSX250R. And that brings me to comparing rider aids. Some of these bikes have more electronics than my ZX6R that costs twice as much here in the US. The 2022 RC390 is the most loaded motorcycle in this comparison, with ride-by-wire and a host of other things, but I really like the little things that make it really good for everyday use. Things like the adjustable clutch and brake levers, smartphone connectivity, foldable mirrors, and adjustable clip-on handlebars that you can set to your liking depending on your height and riding style. The TVS Apache RR310 also has some cool electronics as standard, including 4 riding modes, Bluetooth connectivity, navigation, and even race telemetry, top speed, 0 to 60 time, and a lot more. None of the other bikes have any serious electronics except ABS, but I don't think the lack of electronics on these bikes is a deal breaker. The GSX250R does get an adjustable brake lever similar to the RC390. It also has a nice reverse lit LCD instrument cluster that looks pretty cool. Yamaha R3 dash is also LCD but looks pretty basic, especially if you compare it with the RC390's full TFT dash that has more information than you're ever gonna need. The CBR 300R has the same instrument cluster they had on the 2013 CBR 250R, and the Ninja 400 dash is the same as my ZX6R, and I kinda like it. You can see that some of these bikes are more track performance oriented than others, but most riders would use these bikes for street riding, and for that, comfort would be a big deciding factor, which is not exactly a strong point of race bikes. So which one strikes the perfect balance between performance and comfort? The CBR 300R and the GSX250R are the best in terms of street riding comfort. Riding position position of both the bikes is far more upright compared to the rest. The Ninja 400 and the Yamaha R3 would be the next ones in terms of striking somewhat of a balance between aggressive riding position and a comfortable riding stance. The RC390 and the RR310 have a more aggressive stance, but they do have an option to adjust the ergonomics to some extent to make it slightly more streetable. You have to keep in mind, people with different height and different body proportions would fit differently on these bikes. So I would highly recommend setting on your top 2 or 3 motorcycles before making your decision. And that brings me to the part where I compare the seat height, ground clearance and weight. The CBR 300R and the Yamaha R3 have the lowest seat height at 30.7 inches, which could work for most riders. The Ninja 400 is only slightly taller and works for riders who are 5'6" to 5'8" and above. The GSX250R is a bit higher, followed by the TVS, and the KTM RC390 is of course the highest at a much more sporty 32.4 inches seat height. The TVS, being primarily developed for the Indian market, has the highest ground clearance. The RC390, GSX250R and the Yamaha R3 sit somewhere in the middle, and the Ninja and the CBR have the lowest ground clearance in the class. All these bikes are fairly light except the GSX250R, which is the heaviest in the class. The 2022 KTM RC390 has shed a lot of weight over its previous generation with a lighter frame, wheels, brakes and even suspension components. Although there's no official confirmation on the curb weight yet, I would expect it to weigh close to the 2022 Duke 390. And before I talk about which one is the best bike to pick, let me talk about fuel efficiency, because gas prices. The Suzuki, Honda and the TVS are the most fuel efficient ones, but the Yamaha R3 and the RC390 fuel efficiency is quite respectable for the power they make. The 2022 RC390 has a bigger fuel tank now, increasing the range to about 240 miles or 386 kilometers. Interestingly, the Ninja 400 has the lowest fuel efficiency, and the 3.7 gallon tank, which is the same as the R3, would struggle to make it to 190 miles before it runs dry. The GSX250R would certainly be the one that needs fewer trips to the gas station, given its 4 US gallon tank and a 250 miles theoretical range. Of course, these efficiency and range figures would depend on how you ride. A spirited or aggressive ride would hurt these figures. Some sensible throttle and clutch work could even beat these figures. So which one's the best one to pick? Well, it depends on the kind of riding you're planning to do. The Honda CBR 300R and the Suzuki GSX250R are great street bikes, especially for beginner riders or people who like to cruise at highway legal speeds. You could also use them as mini touring bikes. Both are super reliable. It just boils down to personal preference between the two in terms of looks and performance. The RC390 and RR310 are pretty much race bikes, and for everyday street riding, you may not be able to appreciate the sophisticated equipment except maybe the ease of smartphone connectivity and navigation. They have just enough adjustability to make them somewhat comfortable for street riding. In fact, street naked bikes would be a better choice for that purpose. You could also watch the Street Naked's comparison video on the channel. The Ninja 400 and the YZF R3 have struck a good balance between track capability and streetability for everyday riding. Ninja 400 does have more power and torque and some upgraded equipment over the R3. Common criticisms of the Ninja 400 are the low fuel efficiency and a seat design that tends to push your crotch against the tank. Nevertheless, in the US, lovers of the R3 are taking notice of the great package the Ninja 400 has to offer, and it seems to be doing quite well here. And if you already have some bit of riding experience and can push your budget a little more, watch this video I made comparing mid-weight sports motorcycles and get a view of what your future motorcycle could look like. You could also read the specs comparisons on my website that I made for people who like to read at their own pace instead of trying to keep up with the fast-paced graphics in my videos. This is Faraz, helping the rider community one video at a time.